Criminals Act, Section 4, since July 31st, 2001, and the judges are very clear that it was supposed to commence then, and the government very clearly failed in what it was ordered to do. And not only that, when Terry Parker went to the Ontario Court of Appeal, and it finally got to the Ontario Court of Appeal in July, the verdict came back July 31st, 2000, the judges said, listen, Parliament, this is a matter for Parliament, they should be passing a new medical marijuana law, we're going to give them 365 days, and they were very explicit, it has to be Parliament, has to pass it. The government failed to do that, 365 days go by, and you know what? Not a single Solicitor General in this country told the people, the citizens of this very country, that marijuana was legal. Not a single, Minister Cochon has been talking about how he wants to decriminalize marijuana. Hey, Mr. Justice Minister, marijuana's been legal for 2 years now, and you don't even want to tell anybody about it.
That's right.
So that tells you how insincere the government is about any supposed decriminalization legislation. Now I brought with me something we can all celebrate. Now, remember what Freud said, it could be just a cigar, too. Anyway, it's funny how this is such a symbol of our oppression. 1 million Canadians have criminal records. Hell, 75,000 people have been charged, convicted, many jailed for possessing this very same thing. And marijuana has been legal for 2 years. So imagine that. Not only is it an injustice for marijuana to ever be illegal, but it's a complete and scandalous injustice that it has been legal. You have never been told. It's been up to people who have been charged unlawfully to go to court, only to have judges go through the truth of the matter, and that, hey, marijuana was suspended over 2 years ago. The Globe and Mail last week said over 50,000 Canadians were charged with pot offenses in the year 2002. That's the highest number in the history of the country. So it's getting worse. Remember, police often say, oh, we don't even worry about pot. Pot's not a key thing. Pot arrests for possession exceeded all other drug cases combined. So when you hear that they don't care about possessing marijuana as an offense, they do indeed. And why? It's all control. You know, the police know marijuana is legal now in Ontario, and they still hate that fact. They still begrudge it as though somehow the courts are illegitimate. Somehow the Charter of Rights is some bogus bill that was forced on an unsuspecting, a country. The Charter of Rights, people love the Charter of Rights. It's the only document we have that protects us from the incredible excess of the government. Sorry. Now let's face it, 164 million people smoke marijuana worldwide. And I want to know, in every country it's illegal, thanks to the United States in 1961 and ever since. But what I want to know is, I ask people this all the time, politicians, members of parliament, never have ever gotten an answer. I'm on TV shows with them all the time debating them. What is the moral basis by which the nation persecutes the marijuana smokers? What is the moral basis? After all, we spend $2 billion a year rounding people up, violating their civil rights, actually violating everybody's civil rights.
Total destruction of our moral fiber.
Well, no, the thing is, they don't even give you a reason. What is the moral basis? In other words, for murder, the moral basis is to stop you from killing another human being, or theft for violating the property of another. But there is no there's no basis whatsoever for marijuana. The country, how does the country benefit? It doesn't benefit. 1 million Canadians have criminal records. They can't see their family in the United States, can't go to a university in the United States, can't travel to the United States. Their whole life is completely compromised, and often from a very early age. How does the nation benefit by that? How does the nation benefit by having police officers scurrying around the country? You know, at any moment, right now, 5,000 police officers in Canada are looking for drugs. It's a staggering amount of cops looking for drugs, tracking down drugs, analyzing conspiracies about drugs, prosecuting, going to court, witnessing drugs. 5,000 at any one second. And remember, there's three shifts a day. So in any given period of time, up to 15,000 people in any 24-hour period are doing something about drugs. And think, in Vancouver alone, we had a man steal 60 women off the streets and murder them in over an 18-year period. And police would always say, we don't have the manpower to track down such a person. This sort of thing goes on in Edmonton, all over the country. Real crime is being unattended to simply because so much police resources go to drugs. And you can understand why. To track down a murder requires painstaking research, time-consuming. But to find someone making a drug deal doesn't require any effort at all. You can walk out of any door, on any street, in any hamlet, village, city, town in Canada, and you're going to find drugs being sold. It's a consenting relationship, so it's not difficult to find when 3 million Canadians smoke marijuana and a variety of other substances are additional number of Canadians. But even when you look at the marijuana, it's never killed anybody. It has no toxicity. You know, water will even kill you. If you drank enough water right now without any electrolytes or anything to process that water, you would drown on that water. That's how some people die when they take a lot of water and they're on ecstasy. They overheat, they perspire, they put pure water in themselves and nothing else, and you can't live like that over an 8 or 10 hour period. People, it's never killed anybody. It doesn't create any harm. You know what I think? I think, for example, it's all about ideology. They know that we're critical thinkers. They know that we all question authority. We all question authority. We don't believe in the mainstream mind. We're all culture apart. That's why the Bush administration has targeted people like us, because if you get a felony conviction in the United States, you lose your voting rights for the whole period of your life. And the Bush administration knows that every single pot smoker they convict is a person who would have voted against the Bush administration. And now in the United States, there's 500,000 people who over the last 30 years have felony convictions for marijuana. It's a staggering amount. These are all the people that are caught growing it, selling it, a variety of things. They are denied their rights. In many places, I know a man, James Lamar Gray, he's been in an Alabama jail for buying 1 pound of marijuana from an undercover narc in 1992. And it was his 3rd strike. And in Alabama, they had 3 strikes. So he's serving life without parole for buying $1,000 worth of marijuana. People, a man in Malaysia, were trying to do something else. He was sentenced to death for selling 1 pound of pot. And his court case is just to do it. China has executed hundreds of people this year alone who are marijuana dealers and sellers. So people are being executed around the world for something that we're going to take advantage of our legal rights right now and smoke.
Is there a program in Canada, in any of the provinces, where people are paid to turn in their neighbors the way they are?
Oh yes, every province has that, and and that's another thing I wanted to point out too. Not only do we spend $2 billion every year chasing down marijuana and prosecuting marijuana users, not only do we violate everyone's civil rights, not to mention the 3 million Canadians who smoke marijuana, but in addition, we have basically corrupted our police force and corrupted our constitution, corrupted the whole process. Police now can go and scan inside your home without a warrant, a thermal imaging, so they can see you having sex, they can see, because your body gives off a temperature, and they have things that read temperatures. So, you know, marijuana lights are one temperature, fridges and stoves are different temperature, and you, depending on what you're doing, if you're jogging in one spot or having sex, they can see your entire movement, because as a human being, you have a heat outline. And they can look right into your home at any time to see what you're doing. The drug war has allowed these kind of things to happen to us, whereas that would normally never be necessary. Why would you ever need to see what heat is going on in someone's house? Only the drug war could give every policeman the permission to pry into the millions of Canadian homes to see exactly what people are doing, and that could be considered lawful. The drug war, the war against marijuana, has incalculable effects. It's been going on for 35 years. What is the basis? When you ask a politician, why is marijuana illegal, the most they can say is, well, marijuana's bad for it. And I point out, but marijuana doesn't go to jail. Marijuana doesn't cry. Marijuana doesn't lose its children. I mean, you can grow millions of marijuana plants anytime. Tomorrow, again, you can start again. Marijuana doesn't suffer from prohibition. Marijuana is merely the plant by which we adore that they're using as an excuse to jail us. 1 million Canadians? I mean, there's nothing else like that. Falun Dafa, you know, they make a protest that the Chinese are rounding them up. There is no other culture on earth that has over 250,000 people in jail at any one time. There are 250,000 marijuana users, smokers, cultivators, and sellers in jail throughout the globe today. And in Canada alone, except for the last 3 months, I'd like to point out that even though a record number of charges were laid last year for marijuana, in the last 3 months, since Justice Stephen Rogan legalized marijuana, and well, actually certified that it was legalized, there have been fewer charges laid in Canada than any other 3-month period in Canadian history since 1967. So let's thank Justice Stephen Rogan for allowing us to be able to smoke this bomber, as I expect we will. To be able to smoke call this bomber? What was I just going to call it a BC bomber, because that's where I brought this pot with me. It's a Jamaican called Marley's Cracker. Kingston Cracker, there you go. And the Kingston Cracker. Yeah, because once we smoke it, it's gone. And this. All right, who's keeping track of how we're speaking? I will admit that sometimes, and I haven't smoked it, so I still can't. No. By the way, somebody let me know when it's 4:20.
It's 4:04.
4:04. Okay, long way to go. Well, that's the price you have to pay. Another 60. By the way, folks, I'm really glad to be here. I'm from Ontario originally, 34 years. I lived in London, Ontario, and I'm really happy to be back here. I was a bookseller for 17 years, and I went out west and I became an activist.
Near Guelph?
Well, it's close enough. It's a bit beyond Guelph. It's still there now. It's City Life Bookshop. It's a wonderful place. And I just want to say it's great that you all took time to show up. As I tell everybody, I never gave out a press release to anybody in the entire tour alone. I relied on local people to let others know, including the media in this city, who was informed by. Here, hold that. Sure. Breaking laws.
I'll get arrested and you'll just walk on scot-free.
Well, you know, normally, and I have been arrested in five provinces, 6 cities. And, you know, don't let anybody ever tell you nobody goes to jail for pot anymore. I got held 24 hours in Winnipeg Remand and brought before the judge in leg irons. Leg irons? I thought that went out with the Navy, like when they keel somebody. Leg irons. A Canadian citizen. I wouldn't say a
Wait till you see
stature.
what Kingston brings you to.
Well, you know, I have a good friend who spent 18 years in prison for that. I'll get to him in a second. For marijuana. A lot of marijuana, but that shouldn't be any difference. Nobody goes to jail or gets fined for having a house full of beer. You know, it's like you can have an unlimited quantity of beer, an unlimited quantity of cigarettes or prescription, whatever. But boy, if you have more than an ounce of pot, you're a trafficker, and next thing you know, you've got a criminal record of some serious felony. You're going to jail. You know, everybody's charged with an indictable offense has to spend at least 1 night in jail. So if you get caught selling an ounce or selling a joint or anything like that, you're going to spend time in jail. And jail is a terrible place. Like I said, in Winnipeg, I got held for 24 hours, and you meet all sorts of people in jail. They'll tell you all sorts of things. 24 hours, you can learn a lot of stuff no young person should learn. Right? You learn how that heroin's better than cocaine because of this, and this reason, and how you can stuff drugs up your ass, and how you can hide them in your running shoe, and people swapping email addresses and numbers in prison. Like, oh man, when you get out, you have to meet. Yeah, that's what you want. You know, that's the kind of thing that we're sending our young people to do. And of course, in Winnipeg, they didn't want to let me go. They tried to tell the judge, no, don't give him bail. He's just going to do it again. He's just going to smoke more pot, and so we should keep him in here until trial, which is 3 months later. And the judge said, no, I don't think so. Let me go. But when it got to Edmonton, they tried to do the same thing. Then they tried to get the judge, well, listen, make it so he can't possess any non-prescription drug. Don't let him out of here. Eventually, they got it so that I was barred from stepping on police property, which would normally never happen.
What a deal.
But anyway, I got arrested in 6 places. People go to jail all the time for marijuana. In Canada, somebody is arrested every 6 minutes. Every 6 minutes, somebody's arrested in Canada for possessing marijuana. Now, that's changed in the last 3 months thanks to these court decisions. But up till then, like I said, last year, 50,000 people, over 1 million Canadians have criminal records. That's shocking and scandalous. That should be overturned. But what's really interesting is that marijuana has been legal since July 31st, 2001, following the Parker decision, and over 75,000 Canadians have been convicted since then, when marijuana is legal. Now, how does that happen? And what I want to do is, the reason I want to get charged in the other jurisdictions, I've been charged in St. John's, Newfoundland, Moncton, New Brunswick, Winnipeg, Manitoba, Regina, Saskatchewan, and Calgary and Edmonton, Alberta, and each of those areas have not yet acknowledged what the Ontario courts here have acknowledged, that there hasn't been a marijuana law for over 2 years. It's every charge is completely unlawful, has no basis in law. Every police department in Canada, I've been to all of them, they all know the law has been suspended. The Solicitor Generals of each province are hiding, and you know what is embarrassing is the media hasn't gone up to one of these Solicitor Generals, taken the court decisions I was referencing earlier and said, listen, this judge clearly explicitly said there's no marijuana law. It was struck down, but you continue to arrest people and charge people. How can you possibly justify that? Or isn't the government bound by the same rule of law that the rest of us are theoretically bound by? Or do they get to appeal it forever and deny that the courts are legitimate? I mean, there's a lot of talk about judicial activism, but remember, Parliament passed the Charter of Rights to deal with things that Parliament wants to avoid. And Parliament